Hey everybody, this is Austin Schwend. Gonna do a assembly video of the Humvee locking fuel door that I make. I noticed some guys take them apart in order to paint them their custom colors, so just wanted to show how it goes back together if you take it apart for painting, and at the same time do a review and show you how it's designed and made. So to start with, this is 1/8 inch thick 6061 aluminum. That's the same grade of aluminum that is used on the Humvee body. To give you some reference, 3/16 is what they use for the actual doors, if I remember correctly, if you have half doors, factory half doors. So 1/8 is a good compromise for a smaller door such as this. When I first started making these doors, the only option that was available was people that were doing billet aluminum doors, machining them with a CNC mill operation, and then they would charge $400 for one of the doors, and I didn't want that. I wanted something that was a bit cheaper as I mess around with this, so that it would be a little more affordable for people to have one on their truck. So what I'm going to do to start with on it is I'm going to apply blue Loctite to the studs of the hinge. A little too much on that one. And the Humvee has a lot of vibration, not just in the engine vibration and the powertrain vibration, but having such a heavy-duty suspension results in a lot more vibration. So putting Loctite on pretty much anything you put on it is something I would recommend. There's a lot of times things will just go loose on one of these trucks. So what I use is it's got a captured spring lock nut on here. Let me make sure that you can see that on camera. And it threads right onto this hinge. Now, a little bit of information about this hinge. This is a solid zinc hinge with a stainless steel pin in the middle. It's a very strong hinge. It's I think it's rated for about 500 pounds in tension if I'm pulling it apart right now. And I want to say it's about 300 to 400 pounds if you were to stand on it while it's assembled on the vehicle. So it's a very strong hinge. You can see how the studs are integrated into the metal hinge. Some of the competitors are using hinges that, if you look at them, are much, much weaker. And this, for example, is one of my early prototypes I made out of steel just because I had it laying around. And I used a piano hinge like you see some people do. And the piano hinge has a lot of slop. I'll show you, I've got what I originally made that from. The piano hinge has a lot of slop in pretty much all directions. Like it slips a lot that way. I don't know if you can see that. And when you've got a short span of it, it can actually move a lot that way, which I did not want. Not to mention, you see the pin size there on these aluminum hinges. It's usually an aluminum pin through there to resist galvanic corrosion, and it's not even close to the size and the strength of the hinge that I use. And I mean, even it's going to be hard for me to show this on camera, but I'm going to use my pinkies and thumbs on the end of this thing, and you look how much I can bend this just with using pinkies. Like it's got no business on a Humvee as far as I'm concerned. So that's step one for me, was finding the hinge, and I probably ordered about, I want to say ordered about 10 different hinges trying to find the right one. So when I put this on here, what I do is I put my thumb through here and I essentially pull what'll be up and to the right if it's on the vehicle. That's going to be the orientation. And then I go ahead and tighten down. These are all 10mm screws. I tighten down 2 of them. And then I check the alignment of the door afterwards and open it and make sure it closes, and in the position it would be on the truck. Now the cool thing about the door and this hinge design also is when you open the door, it can't hit the truck. It opens up and it can open up a full 180 degrees, but then that hinge hits itself. So this part will not hit the truck. You have to be careful when I put the lock cylinder in here eventually. If you leave your key in there and you open this up, it can definitely hit the truck. But as it sits right here, it's not possible for you to open this and hit the truck, which is one of the things that I wanted in my design. In fact, one of the hinges I looked at was, if you look online, there's like antique car fuel doors, and they have like an angle that they open up of like 130 degrees or something like that, like your traditional door that you would have on a car. I ordered one of those, which was like, I don't know, was it 50 bucks or something like that for one of those hinges? And it turned out it was just a cabinet door that you would have in your kitchen, a cabinet door hinge. So that's on there pretty well. And the next step is the lock cylinder. Now the lock cylinder I got is rated for outdoor use, which is pretty important because of the materials it's made of. I don't use that part or that part. So I'm going to put this through with this nub facing upwards with respect to how the door is going to go on the truck. And then take some Loctite, put it on the top, put a little tiny bit on the bottom, and thread this on there. And this is a 22 millimeter socket. I only do this by hand. If you try to put a ratchet on this, it's very easy to end up breaking these. That's a general rule of thumb, pretty much for all of them. So then what I do is I put the little lock aligner, whatever the heck this thing would be called, I don't know. And I do mine so that to the left is locked. So that's locked. Struggling here. And that's unlocked. Locked. Unlocked. And then you take your, this right here, this side will go towards the back of the door. And of course, threaded connections, so Loctite. And this is another area where the door ends up being a bit stronger because you have these metal arms. Some of the people who make these doors just, it looks like they bend these things in a vise. This is pre-bent by the factory, much more stout. So hold the lock while you tighten. Good. And then the only thing that's left is the little anti-rattle stop that I do. And this is made out of edge trim with a bulb on it. Just standard long stuff that I cut about 1 inch of material off. And the only thing different that I do is I take the bulb portion and I cut it right down the middle, like that, so that it can fold over when the thing closes. And those folding over is basically what stops it from rattling. Just to give you an idea, you know, I'm going to take the keys out for best representation. Without it, you know, I didn't want to add more rattles to your truck. The truck has plenty of rattles on its own. So you take this thing and just slap it in here. And then when you tighten it, much quieter. And that's its reason for being there. And that's one fuel door. I'd already put this plate on all of them before I started filming this. So, but if you drill those out in order to paint this separately, I use this type of rivet, 0.126 to 0.250 grip range, hole size 0.192 to 196, diameter through hole. And those should be, it's an aluminum body rivet with an aluminum mandrel. So that's really all there is to the locking fuel door. I'm gonna go ahead and make, what do I have here? I have enough hinges to make another 5 of them, and those will be ready to ship. I'll do a quick video outside of one on the truck, and I'll post that as well. So here's the fuel door on my truck. This one's been here about 2 years. So you can see as you start to use it, the paint will chip off of where the shutter is. Fairly easy to repair. Also, it's a good idea to paint these at the same time that you do the door, otherwise it looks like this. But when you open this, you see how it nests in there perfectly. It's impossible for me to hit the truck unless I push really hard. This was the first generation where I used lock nuts. But that's what mine looks like.